Hello, it is Wednesday. It is noon if you're on the West Coast, and it's time for another Courier Live. I am here today. We have Tony back with us, but for those of you who don't know them, I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hey, I'm Tony with Courier. I've been with the engineering team for about 6 months now, and you might remember me from a past Courier Live where we did the message statuses and we talked about delivery.
That
So
we did. One of my favorite things that we do is the logs.
logs, yep.
Today we are going to tackle something a little different. We are going to attempt to send notifications using Courier to MS Teams. So this is an integration that we have. It's actually out there being used, and I thought I've never done this before, so let's try it. And so Tony has been working on it, and I asked him to join me in this journey, trying to get my account set up to send to MS Teams. So before this, we have our own MS Teams instance. Tony's in it. I got added to it. So now we're going to try to see if we can send messages to it. And there are two different types of messages that we can send to MS Teams. You want to talk a little bit about that, Tony, before we dive in?
Yeah, so the first type of message that we originally supported was sending sending a message from a bot to a user in an MS Teams instance. So it's kind of like a private chat, a conversation essentially, where the bot basically, whatever you send to the bot relays that message to the user.
Okay, and that's called a proactive message in Teams terms?
Yes.
Okay.
Proactive messaging. And then the second type of message that we added support for was being able to have the bot send a message to a channel, essentially. Okay. So if you are in a Teams instance and you have a couple channels, you could have the bot point that message to a channel instead of a user directly.
Nice. Okay. So let's see what we need to do here. Let me pull up my screen. And this is me looking up stuff beforehand. But we have our Courier instance. And so I guess the first thing we want to look at while in here is actually turning on the integration and what's involved in that. So in our integration catalog down here, we do have Microsoft Teams chat. And so if we click on that, we are prompted for an app ID and an app password. And so these are things that we will need to find. I'm guessing that this relates to the bot that we're going to be connected to. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. So one thing that we're going to have to do today, I don't have a bot created, so we're going to have to create that bot so that way we can grab that app ID and app password to be able to, I guess, install the provider in Courier. So that's one task for today. And then if we look at the documentation for what it takes to actually send messages, I have that pulled up over here. So if you go to our Teams documentation, and you can get to that by clicking the setup documentation here, that will take you to that page. Or you can go to docs.courier.com, click on the integration guides, and find it underneath the direct message integrations. So that's where Microsoft Teams lives. And so Tony mentioned the two different ways that we send. So depending on how you want to send this message, the profile for the recipient has to have different information. So inside that profile, there's going to be an MS Teams object. And if you want to send to a user, we need to know the user ID, the tenant ID, and the service URL. So those are some values that we're going to have to find to figure out where those are. But if you want to send to a channel, then we only require the service URL and a channel ID. Cool. So other task is actually setting up a profile that we can send to. I think let's start with the fun part, and then we'll dive into creating and hooking up the bot. But while we have Courier open, let's go to an existing notification. So I think I created this notification for the last time you were on here, and I've since used it a couple times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but we have in our designer here, I have a Courier Live alert. Mm-hmm. All right, so it's a simple, right now it's an email. Whenever we did IoT stuff, we put in a webhooks provider. So that would allow us to send to an endpoint that, like, in our case, it turned a light on and off.
Mhm.
So, and to add teams, we're just going to go and add another channel. We have this set up to always send to an email and then the best of the webhook. So let's continue to do where it always sends to the email, but we'll also add in the teams. So I'm going to go ahead and add the teams channel, and it adds it right over here. And you can see that it's not connected because we haven't installed that provider yet. So we can go right over here, and we can grab these blocks that already exist from the email, and we can drag them over and make our message look like how we want it to look. Anything you want to add for just creating the notification for Microsoft Teams?
I was gonna say, I don't know how. I'm kind of curious how this will look compared to like maybe like something when you build like a Slack message, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna be similar in structure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna start by dragging over these blocks and making it look similar to the email. So, I guess it starts with the title. I'll drag that in there above here. So we got the title, we've got the greeting, we got information about the hosts. I think that's how that goes. Yep. And then we've got a button that whenever we click, it will take us to the Twitch channel that we're on right now. So that is, I guess, assembling the message. Like, we've composed a message to send to MS Teams, and we use that with the existing blocks that we had available from our email message. So very quick. This might be the quickest part of the stream today.
I was gonna say all the parts are gonna be fun. Like you said, only the first part's gonna be fun.
They're all gonna be fun.
It's all gonna be fun.
Okay, so I've published this. We need to get the provider actually installed, so we're going to need the app ID and password, and then we're going to need to set up a profile. So we'll use the send tab today instead of going into one of my many Node.js scripts. So we'll use a test case. So we'll put together a test case with the correct profile information, and then we'll use that send. But first, how should we go about getting the that app ID and password?
Well, we're gonna need a working bot that can. In Azure, we need to go to the world of Azure.
Okay, so I'm logged into my Azure portal, and whenever I said that I didn't have a bot created, I lied. I did create one just because like there's some deployment time after you create it. So I have one sitting here that may or may not work, but that we have something that's already been deployed. But let's go ahead and walk through creating that bot. This would be fun. Gosh, so there's so much that Azure can do, and like I've barely scratched the surface. Even though I have like many friends who are developer advocates and work on Azure. One of the projects I did with Chloe Condon was all done inside Azure. So we used an Azure timer function. We used Cosmos DB instance, and we did the turnip timer. So if you play Animal Crossing, all of that was done in Azure, and we sent the messages over Courier. But this time we want to create a bot. So I'm going to hit create a resource. I'm talking about this like I know what I'm doing.
You totally look like an expert right now.
No, yeah, it's great. It's everything's going to be totally fine. And we were messing around with this yesterday, and we just started by typing in bot, and we settled on the web app bot. So whether or not this is how it works, this is what we started with. And I'll go through the settings and what I did to set it up, and then I'll X out of it and go into the bot that I created that's already deployed. And we'll cross our fingers and see what happens. It might be redeploying right now, or just to get this to come up.
It's a little lag time with the create screen.
Just waiting. Have you done anything really cool with Azure, Tony?
Honestly, I have not yet. It's even though I have like a past in Microsoft, I kind of transitioned into Node like right before Azure became a big thing. So
But to say you were like a big C# person, right?
a big C# person, big Microsoft phone user, maybe the only Microsoft phone user. But yeah, love the .NET community, but didn't really get a chance to dive into Azure as much. So.
The last time I used .NET, it was like .NET 2.0. Yeah, that was a long time ago. Okay, so we have this come up. It says an Azure bot service bot deployed to an Azure app service web app. Whew. Okay, that was a lot. Build, connect, deploy, and manage bots to interact with your users wherever they are, from your app or website to Cortana, Skype, Messenger, and many other services. One of those services, hopefully, is MS Teams. I would have felt a lot better if they would have like just put that right in there. Just say, or MS Teams. All right. Okay. So to create the bot, you have to come up with the bot handle, your subscription. So if you have created a new Azure account, you can sign up for a free trial, and that will be your subscription. Or if you're a part of your company's Azure Active Directory, is that what they call it? I want to call everything a workspace. Then you can utilize the subscription there. You can pick a location. Tony and I have a little bit of a fight. He's on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. So whoever creates the app wins, I think. You can give it a name. You can set up a template. And so what I did with mine was first I clicked on Node.js because don't feel confident enough writing C# right now. And I just selected this Echo bot. So this is going to throw together a template handling a bot that I think it just responds with whatever you type.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, and so you can choose that. There is the app service plan and location, and that gets, you fill that out. Not really know what it does. And then some application insights. And then you'll create it, and it will do a deploy and spin up this app. But because I already have one done, I'm going to go back to home, and I'm going to click in on my Courier Live bot. So I decided to name it Courier Live bot. Made sense to me. We have a messaging endpoint, so that's one of the things that it spun up. So the test code got deployed, and it got deployed to this URL here. And I actually went in and told it to deploy. Don't know if that was necessary, but we are now able to go into configuration. We're guessing. We're guessing here. This is great.
No configuration's right. I would have said, I would have stopped you before.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we got all these hidden values, but I'm pretty sure under configuration, this is what we need: this Microsoft App ID and Microsoft App Password.
Correct. Yep.
Correct. Okay. And so we can click this show. This was very difficult to like be able to copy those out. What if I just hit edit? Okay. Oh, that's a copy button. All right. So this is the app ID. And so I'm going to go back over here to Courier, into our integration, and go back to the Microsoft Teams. And I'm going to copy in our app ID and go back over here. Did I exit out of that?
I don't recall that you did. Yeah, I'm actually surprised that it fell back to the overview page.
All right, so we'll go back into it, go back to configuration. All right, and right here at password is the other thing we need. I will regenerate this later. Oh, see, I hit this X.
So
this X. Yeah, that's what we did.
That adds to the fun.
the stacking the X's. Okay, so we have an app ID, we have an app password that relates to the app that we created in Azure. So I'm going to go ahead and install that. And if we go back to our Courier Live alert, we can see that this is not installed yet. So I believe we just go in here and click on the teams, and we can update the configuration. So it says your integration configuration out of date. Let's update it. This looks happy now. That little icon's gone. So we should be good there. And I'm actually going to go ahead and put that above webhook, so that way it doesn't fire the webhook for right now.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so step one, mostly done. We have the integration installed into Courier. Now to figure out how to get the message to send. Yeah. So, oh gosh. So do you think we need to do anything else with this bot?
Let's go to channels to see what it can interact with.
Okay.
So remember when you were reading like the paragraph about describing what bots can interact with?
Right. Yeah.
This is basically the list of all the services the bot can send messages to. And see one of them.
So we need to configure a Microsoft Teams channel, it looks like.
Yeah.
Because right now we've only got web chat.
Right.
Okay. So let's see. I've not done this before. Okay. So messaging, a Microsoft Teams commercial. That sounds good. Let's save. Terms of service. Yeah, sure. We'll accept that.
Seems legit.
It's true. Okay. So it says we have a channel. Messaging.
Okay. So if you go back to the channels settings,
Okay.
you'll see that. Actually hit cancel to get out of the screen.
Oh, okay.
MS Teams is now one of the channels it can connect to.
Yeah. Says it's running.
And if you click on the word Microsoft Teams, the link,
Okay.
actually bring in the bot into our test instance.
Hey. Ooh. This is getting further than I did last night. This is exciting.
So yeah. Okay. So if you look at the ID Courier Live bot, that's the name of the bot that you gave the one from yesterday. And then if you type in there, it should actually echo back it should echo back what you've typed.
Oh, nice.
So
okay.
This is kind of like how you can actually bring in bots into Microsoft Teams.
Okay. So we've created the bot, and it's running, and we brought it into our teams. That seems good. Okay. So do we want to start by sending this to a channel? Or what do you think that is that what's going to be the next step, is trying to send a message using Courier? Or do we want to try to send to a user?
I would say let's try to send to the user first.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to zip back over here to our teams. Not that one. To our teams, and to send to a user, we need this information in the profile. So I'm going to copy that out because I'm going to need that for a test event. Dun, 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 dun. And that's not the right screen. So if we go into preview, we can look at our test events. I'm going to create a new one, and we're going to call this one Teams. Really long. Okay. Let's take out tests. I think that's redundant. We named the test case test. Okay, so this was this is the title information for the last one you were on.
Mm-hmm.
We will go ahead and keep it. I don't think we need this name. In the profile, I'm going to paste that in.
Okay.
And do a little tab cleanup here. All right. And so now we need to find these pieces of information.
For line 21, remove the semicolon, and line 16, add a comma. There's a semicolon on line 21 that's causing it to show invalid JSON.
Oh, oh, there we go. All right.
Well,
Yeah, because it will not save if it's not valid.
yep.
Awesome. Okay. So, do. Now okay. So the service URL, I guess that's a good start. To where to get that. In the past, I have just gone down here. We have an example, and I've grabbed this one. But can you tell me a little bit about the service URL? Do you know?
Basically, for Microsoft's like services where you have to send anything at volume, they introduced basically these URLs where you can kind of post different types of actions, like through a RESTful API, certain types of actions.
Okay.
The one that you've just pasted is the traffic is basically a route for America. So if you have a lot of users and or bots basically operating in America, this route would make a lot of sense for the service URL.
Uh-huh.
Or like Europe or Asia, that AMER at the end would probably be something different.
Yeah, I was looking yesterday at the different service URLs, and there was an APAC one. So I guess that was for the Asia Pacific.
Yep.
All right. So we're in America. We'll stick with that. Next up, we need to get the tenant ID and the user ID. Which one should we do first?
Let's do tenant ID.
Okay. And so what is the tenant ID?
The tenant ID represents basically where the team's instance, the team's organization exists.
Okay.
So it's basically a GUID that where like, so say we have a Courier instance here, Teams instance, we have a unique ID that represents where all the channels and all the users belong.
Okay.
For Teams. So
and how will we get that?
So there is a somewhat clever way to get it. If you go to Microsoft Teams, the app, if you have the app running.
Yep, got the app running.
And if you go to the Teams.
Okay.
And then click on either test channel or general, and click on the ... There is a ability to get linked to channel.
Okay.
And let's copy that value and let's take a look at what that contains.
Sure. Okay, I'm gonna put it down here. Oh, it's big. Yeah, so we got a big URL, teamsmicrosoft.com. We got channel. We got test channel, group ID equals, tenant ID equals. Okay.
So you would think so this has a couple query string values, key values in here. You would think the tenant ID at the end would represent the value we want for a tenant ID here, but in this case, to access that group of or basically our Courier instance with all the channels, you actually want the group ID value in here.
Okay.
So tenant ID is something related to our Courier instance, but it's not specifically what we want in this case.
Okay, so I'm going to grab out this group ID. Make sure I got it all. And I'm going to put that in for the tenant ID. Now, I might mention there are APIs and things like that you can do to programmatically get that. And if you're writing a bot, you could probably run one of those calls and save all this information into a Courier profile for each recipient. That would probably be the best way to do it. But doing it here, we're just trying to get the value. And if you are setting up your integration for the first time and you just want to be able to test it out, this is a quick and easy way to grab that information. So I'm going to take and get rid of this because that's all we need from that URL, right?
Correct.
Okay. So we'll get back to valid JSON. And now we have a tenant ID value. Okay, so the last value we need for the profile is a user ID. How would we get the user ID?
Yeah, so that's been a fun one. Speaking of like a lot of fun steps for this, so the two ways I know how to get the user ID that I've done in the past is I think there's one that's sort of elegant and one that's not as elegant. I'll go with the elegant approach first. Like Microsoft has released Microsoft Graphs basically, which is kind of a wrapper over some of their entities that exist in the Microsoft ecosystem. One of them that exists today is actually Microsoft Teams. you can actually test sending messages through Microsoft Graph. One way I found my user ID through that was basically looking at when they first load the Microsoft Graph Dev Explorer, you can actually pull up your user ID through that.
Okay.
Because it takes your user ID and basically converts, it's part of the process of converting an access token that grants you the ability to execute operations against the Microsoft ecosystem.
Got it. So how do I get to this graph developer console thingy?
So let's get on a new tab and search for Microsoft Graphs.
Okay.
Go ahead and click on Graph Explorer.
Yeah, down here.
Yep, Mac Graph Explorer.
Okay.
Okay, so right now we need someone to sign in into Graph Explorer. So there's an authentication. So the key piece of the graph is authentication, and then the actual query, and then the payload. So
all right. So I'm going to pick this account. I'm already signed in. It needs permissions. Sure. Take them. All right. So now I'm signed in.
So now you can actually, you should be able to do some of these operations on here. So if you look at getting started, yeah, so go ahead and click on my profile.
Okay.
And run that query. So that should be you. If you go down, there's your ID right there.
Okay.
You're that good. So
awesome.
Anyone that has their bots working already and wants to spam Adrian somehow, that's his ID.
Yeah, go for it, I guess. I never have Teams open. It's fine. Okay, so now we can go back to Courier, and I'm going to put that ID in. That looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, and I said this was channel. This is actually user.
Oh, yeah, user.
Yeah, okay. So now we have an event, a test event set up, and I'll close that. And what are we on? Teams. So this is the preview for Teams. It's lovely. Let's go over to the Send tab. And one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to specify the recipient ID. And I know that my recipient ID that I always use is Adrian10036. And then what that will do is it will merge in the information that's already stored inside Courier, because we're only providing the MS Teams information and the giving name, but I believe my email and everything else is stored inside there. Okay. And this will build a code sample. So if you wanted to like copy and paste this out into Node or one of the other languages we support, you can. But I think this is where we cross our fingers and we hit send notification.
Pretty much. Yep.
Okay. This is what, bear with us. Good thoughts, everybody. Good thoughts. Okay. So it says it's sent, and we can go over to our data tab and look at the messages. Oh my God. Oh wait. Wait, is this good? Let's find out.
Somewhat good. Something went well and something did not.
Okay, so we rendered the. Let me see what the profile loaded is.
Does that look?
Okay, good. So it pulled in all of my stuff. It rendered the Teams. It rendered the email, and we got an error that happened with the Teams send. Okay. So what do we got? Error message, post to that conversations endpoint failed, bad request.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's the. Wish it would show more than 400 bad requests.
Yeah. So, like the cast of Buffy and Once More with Feeling, where do we go from here?
So let's think about this here. From my experience with hitting 400s with MS Teams, it's usually with the payload that we sent over that they can't take it. Just wondering which part of the payload I didn't like, whether it was the service URL. I feel like what we passed in for the user ID made sense. Like we sent basically your user ID. The tenant was the tenant for Courier. The service URL is, like I said, it's like one of the major basically endpoints that you can send messages through, and Microsoft basically route it correctly. One thing I did notice is that we actually had the WebBot app, the WebBot that you had in Azure also had its own URL as well.
I think that was because like there's a WebBot running at that. So let me see. Let me go back to the overview. Because that's the API. And no, I thought maybe there was a website running.
It's not a website running, but you can actually test the bot out and test in web chat, which kind of did this. Which it basically does the same thing that we've done already in MS Teams. It basically pulls in the bot that and basically verify it will echo correctly in here.
So this is test in web chat.
If you go to channels, go back to the channels tab. Let's see if there's.
We got a warning.
Got a warning from them.
Is that going to tell us anything? Invalid user identity in provided tenant.
So that's interesting because we picked out Adrian's user ID, and Adrian's definitely in the MS Teams tenant.
I'm in there. Yeah.
Yep. So
I don't want an online class.
So one thing we could do, Adrian, is we can go to the web app version of MS Teams, and we can actually look at the network routes that get fired off, and see if they're sending a piece of data that is different than what we thought we needed.
Okay. So how do we do that?
Let's go look for. I think it's teams.microsoft.com. Let me.
Teams.microsoft.com.
If that is right, it should. And then instead of getting the app, just use the web app instead.
Web app. Okay.
Okay. So now we're in there. Go ahead and go into the chat again between you and the bot.
Oh, okay. Chat.
And then before we send anything back, let's open up the network tab.
Okay. Oh. And network. Sure.
Go ahead and before we send anything out, go ahead and clear what's the three entries in there, so we can have a fresh.
Where's that? There it is. Clear. All right.
And go ahead now and send the message in here.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, let's scroll to the top.
Okay.
So let's look at the first 201 that got fired off there.
This one?
So
we got some 200, 201, 201. We got 200 for send a chat message.
Let's look at the second. Let's go top down then. Let's look at messages first.
All right.
Headers and see what.
Go to what? I'm sorry.
The headers tab.
Okay.
So this is how basically the web app interacts with Teams. So you can actually see in there, there's actually your conversation with the bot actually has a unique conversation ID in there.
Okay, yeah.
Can you scroll more to the right and see if there's anything after slash messages?
It wraps around here, so there's nothing.
My bad. Okay, let's scroll down. Scroll down.
Request headers.
Nothing there. Okay. So let's go click on the second one. I think the first one was just kind of basically authorizing.
Okay.
So the second one should actually contain a payload. So we scroll down to the bottom.
Request headers, payload.
You're going to be
client message ID, content type. Oh, message type, control typing. So I think this is what's showing up because it was like letting the person on the other side know that I'm typing. So that's what that was being sent.
Okay, so I'm guessing the third one is the actual payload where you said something.
Yeah. So down here we've got content hello, content type text. We got some properties, and a client message ID.
Okay. One thing we can try out is, let me send you I think I'm also in Microsoft Teams right now. Let me send you a message directly in chat.
Okay.
And I'm going to do it through the web app and see if I can generate. Unfortunately, I can't show you my screen right now, everyone, but
he's doing it.
Just imagine that I'm looking for Adrian, and I'm going to try to chat with him in private messaging. So,
So we've gone through and I think we've successfully set everything up inside Courier. The problem that we're running into is grabbing these values that Courier needs to be able to make the call to Teams to send this message. So we are trying to figure out if we have, it looks like we have the wrong user ID according to the messages inside of Azure. And we're trying to see if we can, I don't know, find it somehow, since the way that we did it doesn't seem to work. Oh, Tony's throwing up highs everywhere.
Yeah, more highs. Looking at it.
I really miss in Slack, you can like go to somebody's profile and click the little dots and say copy UUID, and that's all you need.
Right. Yeah, that definitely is one nice feature Slack has. So what I'm seeing is the unique ID for the conversation, which is we saw that earlier in the network patterns, but I'm looking specifically if there's like so what I'm hoping to do is by messaging you is basically draw out if you have like a specific ID that's like unique to the MS Teams world. So
like, yeah, so the ID that's like unique to MS Teams, maybe even unique to this the actual team.
that would be one way to think about it. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. So let me. One second here. So. Oops.
One more time.
So yeah, it's kind of using this. I'm going to copy this here to you.
Okay.
That's the ID that we get back. That ID represents like our conversation between you and me. It definitely is not a GUID, but it is represents. Yeah, it just represents the instance that you can talk back to. So, like the bot also has one as well. So when you were sending messages to the bot, it also has a ID similar to that pattern. So I'm wondering if we can basically take the ID from the conversation you're having with your bot and put that in as the ID.
As the user ID?
Yes. Let's give it a shot.
Let's find out. I'm gonna copy.
Is that the one from me, or is that the one from Courier Live that you're?
It's the one from Courier Live.
Okay.
Copy. We'll go back over here. And we'll go back into our notification. Courier Live. And let's go into the send. I'm going to modify that. Okay, so I'm going to replace this with this. All right, that seems to be fine. Recipient ID, Adrian 1036. That's the right test event, right notification ID. Okay, so we're going to send the notification and take a look at what's happening. Like it sends the email without a problem, and so we've got the circle, but then there's that red dot. It means that there's an error account. So we've got the same 400 bad request. Let's go back over to our channels. And so we've got 2 warnings now. Invalid user identity and provided tenant. Okay. Interesting. Do you think that, so putting a pin and sending to a user, do you think we would be able to pivot to sending to a channel?
We can attempt to. We can show where you get the channel ID from. It's very similar to what we had to do for user. So
okay, so let's try that. We're going to put a pin in sending to a user. We'll research on our end and try to get this working. And hopefully I'll have some kind of update in the blog post that I'll put out next Wednesday. But let's go ahead and try to do a channel. So looking at what we need for channels, we've got this guy here. Actually, we just need the channel ID really. So I'm going to copy that. We're going to go in here, back to our notification, back to Courier Live alert, into our send. We're going to manage our test events, and I'm going to create a new one off of this, so to do a copy. And so we'll call this one channel. I'm going to delete these 2 pieces of information. I'm going to paste in the channel ID. And I think, yeah, that formatted it. Okay, so now we're looking for the channel ID. And you're saying, like before, we can go and grab the channel?
Correct. So go back to Teams, pick the channel you want to send to, and then get the link to the channel.
Okay, I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to paste it over here. All right, so we've got Teams /sales/channel. So
the channel in here is between the channel slash. Again, the value that begins with 19 and ends with, keep scrolling, ends with that Skype.
Skype. Is MS Teams just Skype?
I didn't ask that question.
I didn't ask that either.
The short answer is in some form, yes.
Yeah. That's a topic for another time. Okay. So now I've created a new one. I've still given it the given name because that's what it needs. We would probably have a different message if we were sending it to like a generic channel instead of just like, yeah, it's fine. We'll leave it. I left my given name in there. Cool. So that's saved. We'll X that out. Again, I'm going to change the recipient ID so it has my information. We're using the channel event. Okay, and now we'll hit send notification here. See what happens. I just keep sending my demo account. Oh, well, it's queued. It's fine. It's queued.
Oh, that was some fake hype there.
We were really quick. Okay, so this 11 seconds ago. The email sent, and so that's good. I guess glad we're sending those. And then we've got an error message 403. So that's it's unavailable.
403 is, yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So let's go back over to here. I don't know if there's like a good way to refresh that other than going off and going back on. Okay, so we got 3 warnings. The bot is not part of the conversation roster. So I wonder if it's a situation like in Slack, if you want to send a message to a channel from a bot, that bot actually has to be a member of that channel.
Yeah,
So,
that makes a lot of sense.
so do we need to invite the bot in somehow? Somehow?
Yes. The somehow is the key part.
Yeah.
So if you go to Mesh, if you go to test channel and bring up the menu again,
Uh-huh.
there should be a way to basically look at all the available apps for the channel.
Do files. What's this? That's add a tab. Oh. No. No. Okay.
So there was a subsection for bots in there, but I imagine we actually probably have to publish our bot.
Okay.
And then be able to, and then by publishing the bot, we can have the bot be installed essentially for the Teams instance.
Okay. Well, this was I was like, maybe we can just add it. No, I don't think you can. Updates. No. Description. No. Okay. All right. So we're going to assume that there is a way that we don't know how to add the bot to the channel, and that would give, just spitballing here, that would give it the appropriate permissions to post to that channel because it would be inside it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, looking at the time, I think that we have attempted to cover both cases of sending to a channel and sending to a user. We've run into some issues for both, but I will continue looking into those because I would really like to get this working, and improve some documentation and make it easy for everyone to start using MS Teams. Thank you, Tony, for coming on and working through this with me.
No, thanks for inviting me for this.
I think we got further than I did before. Like I wasn't able to even use the Echo bot, but hopefully in the future I'll be able to send things using Courier. Yeah. So stay tuned for the blog post. Hopefully there'll be some kind of explanation of what we need to do. We might even do a follow-up. I can reach out to some people from Microsoft, maybe pull them in and have them help me get this up and running. So that should be fun. Yeah. Anything else from you, Tony?
No, that's it.
All right.
I'm excited to see the follow-up.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to get it working. It's going to be something really small. It's going to be like, oh, you didn't hit this button in the portal, in the Azure portal. And be like, oh, why did I not do that? So hopefully that's it. But until then, there is another Courier Live, a special Signal conference, Courier Live happening on Friday, and that's going to be a fireside chat with our CEO, Troy Good, and former VP of Product, Pat Malatak. So make sure you check that out. You can go to courier.com/signal and RSVP and find more information. But until then, bye, y'all. Bye, Tony.
All right, see y'all.